Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into the story of, well, a giant of American media, Henry R. Luce.
That's right. Co-founder of Time magazine, but also the architect behind Fortune and Life. Really, he shaped so much of the 20th century media landscape.
Yeah, it's hard to overstate his influence, and our mission today really is to unpack what made him tick. How did this guy, born in China to missionaries, end up building this massive empire?
Exactly. We've got sources talking about his background, this blend of, missionary upbringing and this intense, almost frantic competitive drive.
It's that mix we want to explore how faith, this sense of duty, and sheer ambition defined how millions of Americans saw the world and themselves.
And right from the start, you see this core idea, this missionary zeal he got from his parents.
Right, but he didn't take it into religion, did he?
No, he channeled it into media, into the newsroom, the boardroom. His work became his calling, a sort of grand competitive mission for America.
So to really get that intensity, we have to go back China, right?
China, yeah.
Yeah.
Born there to American missionaries. And they weren't just focused on faith. They were part of this movement promoting Western progress, too.
So a broader mission.
Definitely. And his father's path is telling. We learn he went to Yale, could have gone into law, potentially very lucrative, but instead chose divinity school.
Why? What influenced that?
Well, the sources mention the intimidating religiosity of a classmate, Horace Pitkin. It seems his father felt this powerful call. So this was a family deeply invested in the idea that their work had global significance.
Okay, so he grows up with that weight, that sense of purpose, and then he visits the U.S. for the first time.
Yes, around age 7 or 8, and it just blew him away. America seemed so wealthy, so stable, so civilized compared to the China he knew.
It must have been overwhelming.
Totally. The sources say he was overwhelmed. It wasn't just a visit. It felt like coming home to this idealized place.
And he reacted strangely, didn't he, with the timetables?
Huh? Yeah, it's a fantastic detail. He apparently tried to inhale the experience, frantically collecting railway timetables, memorizing them, even making up his own.
Why timetables?
Seems like it was less about actual travel and more about grasping the structure, the order, the sheer scale of America, trying to mentally map and possess this homeland before he had to leave again. It was quite poignant, really.
So he has this idealized America in his head. Then he comes back for boarding school for Hotchkiss.
Right, on scholarship. His family's missionary income wasn't enough for tuition, and bam, reality hits.
How so?
He felt like an outsider, conspicuous. His clothes were made in China, apparently looked shabby. His speech was overly formal. He didn't know American sports, just awkward.
So the ideal clashes with the reality of fitting in.
Exactly. And he couldn't be the big man on campus through sports, which was sort of the standard path to popularity then.
So he pivots.
He pivots hard. He decides, okay, if I can't be that guy, I'll be a literary figure. He dives into the school publications, competing maniacally.
Not just writing, though.
No, everything. Stacking up points, selling ads, doing chores for the paper. His mantra, according to sources, was to make good in everything I can. Just pure, focused ambition.
And it's at Hotchkiss he meets Brit Hadden, his future partner, but also his rival.
Yes, this fascinating relationship starts there and carries right through Yale. It sounds like this incredibly intense but also really productive competition.
A friendly rivalry? Or?
Sources suggest friendly, mostly. They were united by this goal.
Yeah.
Get literary work the same respect that sports got. Make intellectual stuff competitive, prestigious.
That drive for influence, for shaping things, seems stronger than just wanting academic honors.
Oh, definitely. There's that story from Yale choosing between Phi Beta Kappa, the Academic Honor Society key, and the charm representing a spot on the Yale news board.
And Luce said?
He confessed his hand would almost unconsciously grasp the latter, the news charm. It wasn't just about being smart. It was about having sway, setting the agenda.
Which explains why, after Yale, when they both landed these pretty standard entry-level newspaper jobs,
they were bored stiff.
Yeah.
They saw the existing press as kind of stagnant.
And that's where the idea for their own magazine comes from.
That's the spark. Initially called Facts. Luce himself called it a crazy half-romantic thing that has ruined thousands before us. He knew the odds were stacked against them.
And funding it was a nightmare, right? Relying on connections.
Absolutely grueling. They were hitting up their network constantly. Yale guys, Skull and Bones contacts. It was touch and go for a while.
Until the big break.
The Harkness investment, yeah. They were hoping for maybe $5,000 from Mrs. William L. Harkness, who was connected to the Yale network.
And she gave them
$20,000. A huge sum then. That was the game changer. It gave them the credibility and the capital they desperately needed to actually launch this thing.
And they already had a target in mind, didn't they? An established magazine they wanted to beat.
The Literary Digest, which, interestingly, was founded by Lutheran ministers.
Huh. So another publication with religious roots.
Right, but Luce and Hadden saw it as completely out of touch. A staid relic, they called it. Too much Christian earnestness, dreary design.
So their magazine would be the opposite.
Exactly. Sharp, punchy, tightly organized, and definitely not afraid to be, well, irreverent.
So Time launches in 1923, and you can immediately see their core ideas in action.
Oh, yeah. The DNA was clear. Organization, brevity, comprehensiveness, and partiality. That structure alone, breaking news into clear sections like national affairs, foreign affairs, arts, we take it for granted now, but it was revolutionary then.
Let's pause on partiality. They aimed for authority, but embraced bias. How did that work?
It meant they weren't pretending to be neutral observers. They cultivated a very distinct, confident voice, that famous Time style. And they used specific features to signal their opinions.
Like those sections, point with pride and...
View with alarm.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty direct endorsements or criticisms, plus things like milestones, tracking the lives of prominent people. They were organizing opinion, making part of the news package.
But their partiality sometimes led to unexpected stances, didn't it? Especially on race for the 1920s.
That's a really interesting point. Time deliberately used Mr. and Mrs. for African Americans. Almost no other major papers did that then.
And it caused backlash.
Oh, yeah. Angry letters, protests, especially from white readers in the South. So it shows their chosen partiality wasn't always predictable. Sometimes it reflected a kind of conscious, ethical choice against the grain.
Then tragedy strikes. Brit Hadden dies in 1929.
Very young, yeah. A strep infection, probably worsened by just sheer burnout. Luce was devastated. Called Hadden his inseparable and essential partner.
And suddenly, Luce is alone at the top.
Stunned, distraught, but also in virtually sole control. It marks a huge shift.
And with that sole control, the empire really starts to grow beyond just Time. First up is Fortune in 1930.
Right, which Luce apparently called his real love. And talk about making a statement, it launched costing $1 an issue.
$1. In 1930, the start of the Depression. That's bold.
Insanely bold. It targeted the absolute elite. But the magazine delivered incredible quality. Long-form business journalism, deep dives into corporate strategy, stunning design.
And photography was key there, too.
Absolutely. They hired Margaret Bourke-White, a real pioneer, one of the first women in such a high-profile photojournalism role at a major company. It signaled Fortune's commitment to visual modernism.
But then came the real mass-market phenomenon, Life in 1936.
Life. Totally different strategy. This was for everyone. Crossing class lines. The hook. The photo essay.
How did that change things? It wasn't just pictures, was it?
No, it was narrative through images.
Yeah.
Life basically taught America a new way to see the world, a visual language. The success was instantaneous, unbelievable.
Sold out on day one.
Every single copy.
Yeah.
200,000 of them off the newsstands immediately. It became this shared text for understanding American life.
And what kind of life did it show?
Primarily, it celebrated modernity, progress, the middle-class dream, you know, features on the $5,000 dream house, that sort of thing. Very aspirational.
But maybe a bit selective.
Well, the sources suggest that by focusing so much on that optimistic consumerist vision, it sometimes glossed over the harsher realities, like the ongoing depression. It aimed for consensus, maybe smoothed over some rough edges.
Okay, so as the 30s progress and the world gets more dangerous, Luce himself starts changing, right? Moving away from detachment.
Definitely. You see this shift. Early on, Time could be surprisingly nonchalant about huge events. There's a mention of a 1936 Nuremberg rally described almost benignly, like a big picnic.
Wow. That's jarring.
It really is. But that indifference didn't last. By 1940, his own political passions are front and center.
The election that year, FDR versus Wilkie.
Exactly. Luce threw his weight and Time's weight passionately behind Wendell Wilkie. Sources say he reacted with fury if anyone suggested the magazine should be even-handed.
Why such intensity?
He felt the stakes were just too high for the country. Journalistic neutrality went out the window because the outcome was vitally important.
And this conviction leads to his big statement piece.
The American Century, 1941. A hugely influential essay arguing America needed to ditch isolationism and step up, lead the world.
How? What was his vision?
Sharing everything America had to offer. Its democratic ideals, its industrial might, its technical skills, acting as the good Samaritan of the entire world, as he put it.
Sounds grand, but also potentially problematic.
It was immediately controversial. Critics like Senator Robert Taft jumped on it, accusing Luce of basically promoting American imperialism.
Did Luce see it that way?
He pushed back, insisted he was about responsibility matching power. But yeah, the essay cemented the idea that his magazines weren't just reporting news, they were pushing a specific interventionist American worldview.
And this assertive stance intensified after the war, during the Cold War.
Oh, significantly. He became a fierce anti-communist, strongly backing figures like Chiang Kai-shek in China.
Even when his own reporters sent back conflicting information.
That's a key point. There was real friction. Theodore White, one of Time's own correspondents, sent back this devastating report in 1943 about a famine in China, implicitly criticizing Chiang's government.
How did Luce handle that?
It created tension. The question became, what takes priority? Luce's editorial loyalty to Chiang, or the facts on the ground reported by his own journalist. It highlights the inherent conflict in his approach.
Yet, despite these internal conflicts and controversies, his power just kept growing.
Undeniably. By the time he retired, Time Inc. was massive, the largest magazine publishing business in the world.
And uniquely his vision.
That's what the sources emphasize. More than almost any other media outlet, his magazines truly reflected the focus of Mr. Luce's own views. He wasn't just reporting the world, he was presenting his version of it, a powerful, powerful position.
So quite a journey, from that missionary compound in China feeling like an outsider to becoming arguably the most influential media figure shaping America's view of itself and the world in the mid-20th century.
It really is. And you now have a sense of that unique engine, the zeal, the competition, the organizational genius, the embrace of visual storytelling that built that empire.
But the final takeaway is almost a paradox, isn't it? Between the public influence and the private man.
Absolutely. He created these publications that connected with millions, projecting this incredibly confident global perspective. Yet, people who knew him described him quite differently. Shy, lonely, and somewhat awkward. A man with few close friends.
And those stories about him at meals.
Right. Talking nonstop, rushing his food, and then having no memory of having eaten.
Yeah.
Like the social interaction itself barely registered. It was just a vehicle for his ideas.
Which leaves us with a fascinating question for you to think about.
Yeah. This man who so profoundly shaped America's understanding of itself and the world, this hugely influential public voice, was personally quite isolated, quite detached from everyday social connection.
So, was that distance the key? Did that detachment, that slight remove from the small talk of life, actually enable him to formulate such a sweeping, opinionated, and ultimately world-changing vision? Or was it perhaps his greatest bias? Something to ponder.